welcome to episode 12, I think it is, of Bad Movie Reviews. We've got myself, Ben, and Daniel. You can, of course, join us on all major podcasting platforms, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, visually on YouTube. We've got probably a little bit of a longer pod. We've got a fair bit of news, but we're reviewing Black Adam. We might delve into a bit of spoilers there as well. Obviously, it's a pretty highly anticipated DC movie, and we've actually just seen The Woman King. I know for you 7 listeners, you probably live 20 minutes away, but it's already been out in America, I think, for about a month now. But we will cover that, but we'll get straight into movie news. I'm really keen for this. I don't know how you feel, but Netflix have announced that they're moving forward with a new Safdie Brothers film. So they did Uncut Gems with Adam Sandler, which was the gambling movie, and Good Time with Robert Pattinson, which is what led to his casting as Batman. They're moving forward with a new film starring Adam Sandler, which is rumored to be in the world of high-end card collecting. So whether it's Pokemon, Magic the Gathering, NBA cards, who knows? But obviously, we've seen recently high-end card
You said card. I thought you said we're going to say car. And
No, high-end card collecting. So
Jesus, Logan Paul attendance. Here we go.
Well, yeah, it could be something like that. I'm actually all in for that because, have you watched Uncut Gems?
Yeah, Uncut Gems was good.
It's the most anxiety-inducing film I've possibly ever seen, and Good Time was as well. And Adam Sandler in a dramatic role again. I loved him in Uncut Gems. I thought he was fantastic. But I'm super keen on this, to be honest.
I'm interested to see where it goes. I guess
I presume it'd probably be like you've obviously got gambling, a lot of money. Yeah, I don't see card collecting as really anything different to gambling in a way. It
like
kind of is
stocks.
gambling. Yeah, it's like stocks. You buy high, buy low, sell high. But I don't know. I'm really excited for it. Who knows? That's the rumor. To be honest, like it's not been. All that's been confirmed, but the rumor is that it's about high-end card collecting. But I'm all for it. If Netflix can make more good movies, I'm all for it. Because the rest of them are fucking garbage.
Yep.
This one, I actually must admit, I haven't seen the original. I know you like the game, but there was a recent Silent Hill kind of day where they did an announcement for the new games and things like that. And they've announced a new movie
so keen.
being made by the director of the original one from, I think, 2004-ish. It was early 2000s. I've actually never seen the film, but I've actually seen stills, and I know it actually looks gorgeous, the film, from the stills I've seen. I've never seen it, but what are your takes on this?
Oh, unreal. When we've obviously watched some horrors recently, or ones which have horror aspects, and they kind of haven't met those expectations. But a lot of those expectations actually come from Silent Hill for me. It was the first psychological horror I watched where it just builds you up into this kind of it crushes you, the movie. And I'm like, man, this is great. And if they do half as good as they did then in kind of a new take, I feel like it's going to be phenomenal.
Well, the director hasn't done anything really since, which is kind of interesting.
Could be a good thing though. It means you're also gonna stick to the foundations.
He wants to also probably prove people wrong too, because he's probably done stuff of notable absence and no good. But I don't know how I feel about this. But Universal's announced a sequel to Twister.
Is that crappy
It's the Tornado movie from early 2000s, which I saw in high school because we did a study on it. It's no good.
Yeah, I have not seen it.
It's a cult classic because it was I think at the time, subject of the time, I don't know how to do, realistically, you go to many people and they go, oh, do you want to see that movie about the tornado? They're probably going to say no. Unless you get a phenomenal cast and maybe it's a disaster movie. Who knows? I don't know. I just find why a sequel.
Yeah, I'm not sure, but you'd say, how would you make a sequel? Why is there a sequel? And Sharknado has 8 films.
Yeah, but they're cult they're cult films because they're shit, if that makes sense. It's a cult fan because they're shit. It's I think a little bit different. This one is interesting. Conjuring 4 has been announced with no director attached as of late, which, to be honest, doesn't surprise me because all these films always take $20 million budget and then make 500 plus mil. So they're horror films are notably always big money turners. They always make a lot of money, but I don't think any of them have really been that great. The second one was okay, the one where they were in London, I think it was. The second one was when they were in London and they went to see the family and the little boy, I think it was. But the first one was, I thought, a really good movie. But since then, the third one was
Yeah,
garbage.
They haven't really done it for me. The whole series of like, even with like Annabelle and stuff, haven't really been.
Oh no,
They've had their
yeah.
moments, but I don't feel
Conjuring
like
1,
really...
I think, is the only like one that actually stands up as a good film as well as like some genuine scares. Whereas the second one was kind of a good story.
Yeah.
The third one was that one where they like it was the coven and the like woman. I think we saw it together, and it was like the woman was like underground of the dad's house and like a witch and like possessing them or whatever, possessing her.
Oh yeah.
That wasn't great. That wasn't great. I love how you remember, but who knows? I know James Wan is producing it, who's directed the first one and like started off in that park, but I guess we'll see. This one, I don't know if you are aware of who Damon Lindelof is, but they've announced Charmaine Obaid-Chinoy will direct a new Star Wars film. Now, she hasn't really done anything like of notice. She directed, I think, 3 episodes of Miss Marvel.
Okay.
But she's an Academy Award-winning director for like a lot of short films and things like that. But Damon Lindelof is actually writing the screenplay and writing the story. And he wrote The Leftovers, which I've told you about, which I love. But he also wrote Watchmen, the Watchmen TV series, and a couple of Phineas and Ferb episodes, which is the biggest thing. But he also wrote like Star Trek Into Darkness, Prometheus, and the whole Lost series.
Oh, nice.
So of notice, like Leftovers, Watchmen, they're very much like political. I guess he's kind of got a bit of a cult following because like the Leftovers wasn't that big, but like people love it, and same with Watchmen. But everything he's written has been like really good. So it's interesting that they've announced that because like I know the other one that they've announced is like a Taika Waititi, and he's been like on a couple of misses lately, but they really do hire kind of unknown directors, don't they?
I like it though. I really like giving the little man a good go. You know.
Yeah, but it's so they don't have to pay him much, and then they just get into the Disney churning machine.
Correct, and then they can also lower expectations by having someone who's less experienced or less of a big name too. So it can be a win-win. Churn stuff out for him, doesn't cost them much.
Correct. Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. It obviously majority of the money on Star Wars you'd think would go to either actors or the visual effects production costs. So they save that money on a director, and that way they can kind of go, we want you to do this, we want you to do this, and they're going to go, fuck, okay. It's not like you're ordering Quentin Tarantino or Christopher Nolan around. They're probably going to be like, nah, this is my this is my film. But we've got a couple more. Chad Stahelski, who is well known for directing like the John Wick films. I think recently he might have done Bullet Train. I'm not 100% sure, but he's announced to direct a Black Samurai film for Netflix, which is essentially a book based on an American soldier who's in Japan, gets captive and learns martial arts. But
sign me up.
Sign me up. But it's interesting because he's obviously done all the John Wick films. So from this, I'd say there's not going to be a 5th. I know there's a 4th in the works now. I think it is. Oh, they've already announced it. But he's attached to do a Highlander reboot for Lionsgate.
Okay.
He's attached to do a Ghost of Tsushima. Tsushima, fuck off. For Sony, so the movie, game, and then a Shibumi movie for Warner Bros, which is also a remake.
It's a fair line.
So he's got 4 films in the works, and now 3 films in the work, which are all pretty big films, you would say, that would take a lot of commitment.
Without doubt, yeah.
And then obviously just announced for that Netflix film as well. So I would imagine he'd be dropping out of some of them because if you don't make it, you're not getting paid, obviously. But I mean, you'd realistically say being a director, it's a 2-year commitment.
Minimum for some.
You do pre-production, production, which is usually 6 months. And then obviously you got the editing and post production, which is huge. But I don't know. We'll keep you updated in that space. Obviously, we're touching on Black Adam, and along with the Black Adam release, there was a fair few DC news and Warner Bros. News, but I really want to know your take on this. So, Warner Bros., who are in a world of fucking hurt at the moment, if we're being real, they've obviously cut costs. They're starting to release films as NFTs. So, it was announced the other day that their first film that they've announced as an NFT is Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring. And it's essentially, quote unquote, this is what they've said on their website. It's an all-in-one digital experience. So it includes a 4K copy of the film, hours of bonus footage, behind-the-scenes stills, and exclusive AR, so augmented reality collectible assets inspired for the film. So what are your thoughts on that? Whether they're trying to make a quick buck or...
I like the idea of the collectible assets, but I feel like everything else is definitely a quick buck.
Well, that's just like you're obviously buying the collectible asset, I think, and then you're getting the 4K film, but it's like realistically they're selling the films as NFTs.
Yeah.
And we've seen weird things. Obviously, in Australia, we've got AFL. Like AFL have started releasing AFL mints, like NFTs, like you buy moments. I thought that we'd be well and truly done with that. And obviously, they're in a world of pain, doing all these tax write-offs. And we'll get into the DC movie news, so which is obviously Warner Bros. As well.
Yep.
The Flash 2 script has been completed,
Yep.
which I know Ezra Miller pleaded not guilty, but if he gets
I think can
if he
you?
gets done, he apologized. So that remember we talked about that they've given him an ultimatum: you either apologize or if you don't, we're going to recast you. He apologized, and then he's pleaded not guilty. But if he gets given guilty, it's up to 26 years in prison. So they'd really want to hope on that, because the rumor was that the Flash movie was just going to be like a rewrite of the whole DC universe. That it was like Flashpoint, and they're going to be like going into a different DC universe.
Well, they can do that with Flash.
Well, they can do that, but I presume with this current news, they're probably not going to. Wonder Woman 3 script is in the work. That's been announced. So they've announced a new Wonder Woman 3. Apparently, there's a J.J. Abrams Superman movie being developed, which is not connected to Man of Steel 2, which has also been announced. Well, not so much Man of Steel 2, but a new Superman film in the works with Henry Cavill, separate to the Abrams movie.
Yep.
James Gunn is also developing a new DC film. So obviously we've recently seen him do The Suicide Squad, which I thought was really good. I really enjoyed it.
And he had that the series too, didn't he?
Peacemaker, yeah, which I actually really found quite funny also. I really enjoyed that. He was obviously a character in that, but they're really going quite heavy in this. But the main thing which is interesting is Walter Hamada, who's they call him the Kevin Feige of DC. He's the head of DC basically. Has left the company the day that all this news dropped, which he pretty much, since he's been in charge, in my personal opinion, think all these films are the best films DC have dropped, which is Aquaman, which I thought was okay.
Yep.
Shazam, I really enjoyed. Joker, I thought was fantastic.
Unreal.
Wonder Woman 84 wasn't great.
Shocking.
Birds of Prey, I actually really didn't mind. That
Yeah,
was the
I
Harley
actually
Quinn
did enjoy
solid
that,
film.
yeah.
The Suicide Squad, Peacemaker TV show, The Batman, which I think is a phenomenal movie, and then obviously most recently Black Adam. So it's pretty much post Zack Snyder,
Yep.
and obviously you've had Superman on the side. So I mean, what are your opinions on all that news? Obviously they have no idea what's going on because they've pretty much.
Don't know. They're in a bit of a shambles, aren't they?
Like they pretty much just announced all these things, but then their head of the company's left, so their creative director, so like
It's like to do a footy analogy, they're doing a rebuild. They're getting rid of everything. They're canning everything. They're putting everything back to scratch. And
yeah, which is interesting though, because then you've obviously got Man of Steel, like Henry Cavill coming back for more. Like you've got Wonder Woman 3 and a second Flash in development, so they're kind of almost doing like a half reboot.
yeah,
Because you've still got all these characters and actors attached, which, like, if we're being real, Wonder Woman 1 was great, but like
I like Wonder Woman 1. I thought
Wonder Woman 1 was great, but
Yeah.
like, if I'm being honest, like they haven't really made an imprint. And we'll obviously talk about Black Adam, but financially, it's actually not done fantastic. I think it made 140 million over the first weekend, which obviously is a lot of money, but is not a lot of money in terms of DC sense, Marvel sense, superhero sense. It's not fantastic.
They're
So
probably happy with anything these days, the way they're going.
well, yeah, I mean, they're going to make their money back, quite obviously. Like, that's, I mean, it'd be a real worry if they didn't with the biggest movie star
Yeah.
attached to it. And obviously the fact that they're, we'll get into spoilers talk, but they've really kind of amped this film up within the first 2 weeks of it coming out to try and get people going. But what we might do, we might take a quick break. We'll touch on, I think, The Woman King first, because Black Adam will probably maybe go into a little bit more depth into spoilers and that sort of department. So
Yep.
we'll take a quick break and we'll come at you with the we'll come at you, okay. We'll review The Woman King. So we'll thank you for hanging around. We'll come at you. We'll review The Woman King, which For anyone who doesn't know, it's a historical movie inspired. It says inspired by true events. I know the clan and all that were real, but I don't know if these specific events were real. But it's about the kingdom of Dahomey, I think that's pronounced, which is one of the most powerful states of Africa in the 18th and 19th century. But yeah, I know it's obviously already been pretty well talked about, but what were your thoughts?
Absolutely phenomenal. I had really high expectations just because the trailer looked unreal, and I thought it met them and exceeded them. I know I've touched on it a lot with like the audio and the sound design and the score. It really brought me back to kind of like what I was saying, my childhood. I felt like it was the first time experiencing a Disney film. Like, it doesn't have Disney qualities, but that Disney...
No, not like, whatsoever. No, I know what you mean. It's very like...
The epic scores of my childhood that was like, man, that was unreal. I couldn't believe in like Lion King and Beauty and the Beast, these kind of soundtracks. It's
very powerful, epic score. Like, it's very prominent, yeah.
Yeah, very accurate.
Usually nowadays, it's always like a subtle score that's...
Without a doubt, yeah. It's kind of, it just complements the movie. This was built into it. It was part of it. It was the foundation. I loved it. It was fantastic. I thought... Every single bit of the cast was perfect. Every actor was perfect. The guy who plays the king,
John Boyega.
Yeah, that's it.
We've most recently seen in Star Wars and Detroit.
Phenomenal.
He was great. Yeah.
I had low expectations when I saw him. Mostly just because I think in my head I just saw Star Wars, but he delivered.
Well, he was a great actor in Star Wars, to be fair, as well.
Yeah, I know. But you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like a dramatic change, but I thought it was fantastic.
To be honest, probably exactly what he wanted to do. I know he's publicly spoken about how he got really mistreated, and obviously he was victim to a lot of racism, and he's spoken about how, like, Lucasfilm and Star Wars didn't exactly support him or stop that.
Yeah.
So he kind of wanted to, which is good. He kind of wanted to, obviously not good that happened, but kind of avoided, I guess, a big budget. Not that it's a small budget by any means, but really focusing on obviously making a quality film. And
I loved it. I thought the story was compelling and fantastic, and despite all the gore and violence, there was a lot of really likable and lovable characters, and some even maybe relatable for other people. I really enjoyed nearly every aspect of this film. Would definitely recommend anyone to go watch it. That's for sure. What do you think of the film overall? Because I was over the top love for it.
Yeah, no, I loved it, to be honest. I probably in my top 10, I would say at this stage it's probably my top 10 of the year.
Yeah.
May change. Obviously, we don't know what will happen in the next 2 months, but still a big movie left. Well, this is still better than most. I'm expecting a few to be quite good, but no, I thought this was really well done. Cast was fantastic. You've got Viola Davis, who is always fantastic playing the main character. She's one of the best working actresses today. Quick shout out to, I'll probably absolutely blunder this name, but Thuso Mbedu, who was probably the other main actress, really.
Yeah, definitely.
Who she was seen in The Underground Railroad, which was a fantastic miniseries on Amazon Prime, which I've watched. But this is her first movie, and she almost goes toe-to-toe with everyone in the film, if not kind of outshines at moments. You've got Lashana Lynch, who also was fantastic, who we've most recently seen as Maria Rambeau in Captain Marvel, and was... in the most recent James Bond film, but she plays Zoe, I think it's pronounced, but she was also fantastic, and I'd love to see this film get Oscars love, like awards love.
Yeah.
Which I think it will. I think it'll be in like supporting actress categories, score. Who knows? We've kind of not really got any of the the festival films, but in terms of, I guess, blockbuster films, this is definitely one that should be there. But no, I thought it was fantastic. As I said, cast was brilliant. It also looked fantastic. Like the cinematography, some of the shots were unreal. But it kind of it obviously deals with a very sensitive subject matter, and I know it's gotten review bombed pretty heavily. Whether that's obviously racists online review bombing it, but I know I saw a lot of people saying it was like glorifying slavery, or like selling slaves, which obviously this clan did do, or this place did do.
Yeah.
and the trailer didn't really show any of that, and I felt like it handled that quite well in terms of obviously that, because that's obviously not a good fucking thing, but yeah, it's obviously a very sensitive subject matter, but I felt it like it dealt with it really well. There was a lot of it was a very human film. It was emotional. It was, I guess, action packed for all the people out there who want to see action, but I just felt like the story was just so well done, and definitely a film I'll rewatch, and I absolutely loved it.
Yep.
Thoroughly recommend. As I said, currently probably top 5, top 10 films of the year for me. Everyone came to play, and yeah, couldn't recommend it enough, to be honest. So go see that. We were lucky enough to catch an early screening, so I think it comes out this Thursday or possibly next week. I'm not too sure in Australia, but definitely the better film of the week we'll review. But that's kind of all I guess we'll touch on. Or you didn't want to touch on sort of much more aspects than that?
I thought it was phenomenal, and even though it had some aspects of like slavery, I don't think it glorified it. I think it really showed the indecency that like the whole process was.
Yeah, I think a lot of people online were more saying the trailer, because the trailer didn't go into any of that slavery aspect. It was more just he's a woman king wanting to fight. And it really didn't show, actually, fair play to the trailer. It really didn't show much of the story. It just showed like a lot of the action. And I felt like it did that very well. But other than that, that's kind of, I guess, all I have to really touch on. Really enjoyed it. Everyone go see it. We'll jump into Black Adam, which is obviously a highly anticipated, one of the more highly anticipated, not necessarily for me, but in general, anticipated films of the year. Obviously got Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson playing Black Adam, who, 5,000 years after he's pretty much been bestowed with the powers, with the Egyptian gods, imprisoned and freed, basically. So, ready to unleash his justice on the modern world, as it says. So, what were your thoughts on this film? I know I have a bit to say. We might quickly we might review it and then get into a bit of spoiler chat. What were your thoughts on the film? Obviously, spoiler free at this time.
Very similar to The Woman King, in where it actually beat my expectations, but my expectations were extremely low. Like extremely low. I look at this movie going, I know this is going to be horse, but it's just going to be a great time. And you know what it was? It was horse on skates, but it was still a great time. Like I enjoyed a lot more of it than I thought I would. In no way was it like a great designed film, but I actually really liked all the characters. I thought they were all kind of like lovable and relatable, and even like the stupid aspects, I was like, yeah, that's pretty normal. They're pretty human. It's pretty like dumb, but like funny and relatable. I did actually like the story, but I didn't like the script. I liked the underlying like plot that happened. But not the script overall for myself. But, The Rock gave it his heart and soul, and he wasn't really backed up.
He was kind of just the same person.
Yeah.
Like, he obviously, you can tell he loves the character, but he was kind of just the same.
Yeah, I think he's always the same. But he's, the CGI and the animation didn't really give him too much credit. But he gave it his best go. And I actually thought a lot of the cast were very good. And I enjoyed the film overall. I think it was just an enjoyable movie. I don't think it's a good movie. But it is an enjoyable movie. What about yourself?
For anyone who's excited to see it, will probably enjoy it, and I think that shows with
I agree.
it's. I think Rotten Tomatoes score, for instance, its reviews are at about, it's like 34 or 45% of critics like it. So that's how Rotten Tomatoes works, obviously. But 90% audience score, which is to be expected. I think anyone who's excited to see it will enjoy it. I have a few cons. I enjoyed it for what it was. The action wasn't great, to be fair. Like the CGI wasn't great.
Yeah.
It wasn't very memorable. Like a lot of, I guess, this film probably would have been like the best superhero film ever. It released like 25 years ago.
Yeah.
It's got a massive CGI fest at the end, which I hated. It wasn't great. Like some of the CGI was awful towards the end specifically, which I'll get into, but in the spoiler chat. But other than that, I felt like the story just wasn't memorable at all. I agree with you that I actually really liked a lot of the characters. I thought Pierce Brosnan as Dr. Fate was probably a standout. He was fantastic.
Unreal.
And Aldous Hodge as Hawkman was really, really good. I enjoyed Cyclone and Atom Smasher, but at the same time, looking at the film, you could probably almost write them out of the film completely, and
it wouldn't
nothing
make a
would
difference.
nothing would
Yeah.
change. They're kind of just there. Not that they're bad characters. They did well by their character, but it's just kind of they're almost just added in.
Didn't compliment the movie.
Yeah. Bodhi Sabangu, whatever his name is, who plays Amon, who's the kid in the film. That whole subplot could have been taken out of the film and also not mattered.
I agree.
Like realistically, that there's a massive subplot there, which is sorry, I won't get into that, but there's a massive subplot there, which he actually is a heavy part of the movie. But looking at the film, like you genuinely could erase him and his mum, and nothing really would change. Obviously, the mum's got a bit more play into the start of the film and things like that, but they're kind of just there for no reason in a sense. And the script is really bad. Like there are a few certain comedic moments, but like the script writing and the actual character dialogue is just not good.
Yeah.
And I know for all our 7 viewers, you might sit there and think we're DC haters, but look, if I'm being honest, I think it's probably better than some of the recent Marvel
agree.
films. I think it's better. Personally, I think it's better than Love and Thunder. I do prefer Multiverse of Madness over this, but what other Marvel film released recently? Or was that it? I know we've got Black Panther coming up, but no, in terms of superhero films this year, I think they've all been pretty average, and I think this slides in quite nicely, apart from the Batman, which was just next level in terms of craft and the film itself. But no, look, I enjoyed it, and for anyone who's excited to see it, you've probably already seen it and you'll probably enjoy it. There's definitely aspects to enjoy. I just think from a film perspective, there's just a lot of misses. It could have used a lot more tighter script, and it kind of gives me a bit of a sour taste in my mouth knowing that like Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson's always talked about how he's wanted to make this film for 15 years. And this is what we get.
Yeah.
One of my biggest... actually, no, that's probably more of a spoiler talk. We might take a quick break and then we'll get into a bit of spoiler chat to kind of go in depth and chat about a certain post-credit scene, which we'll get into as well. So we'll continue with a bit more of a spoiler chat first, but I will continue on, I guess, where I stopped just before. My one kind of real bone to pick, which made no sense in terms of how the film was written, right? Obviously, it shows at the start of the film how Black Adam comes about and so on. But you've obviously got one of the main wizards from Shazam, which is another DC film which came out a couple of years ago now. Which, for anyone who doesn't know, Black Adam is one of Shazam's biggest villains, right?
Yeah.
And you've got the wizard from Shazam who they show him quite prominently at the start of the film dealing with Black Adam. And the way, obviously, Black Adam works is the exact same how Shazam works. So you say Shazam, he turns into this mythical god, and say Shazam, and he just turns into this basic, funny-looking CGI Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson on a 5'6" foot skinny man. Like, it looked really uncanny.
It was
a bit weird. But what made no sense, right, is like Shazam's obviously in this DC world. Everyone would know about him. Is the main kid, which I said you could cut out of the film completely, like idolizes superheroes.
Yep.
Idolizes, has Aquaman poster from the movie in his bedroom, Superman, Batman, right? He's literally wearing the exact same costume as Shazam. It's just black, right? Nothing. Doesn't even talk about the fact that, and he's there when it happens towards the end, where he says Shazam and says nothing about the existent superhero that is Shazam. And now that I've brought that up, I can see your mind thinking, what the fuck?
Yeah, I can see what the fuck, but I don't know. I guess they could say
But
something
how can you
about
miss that? And the thing is, obviously, I guess I'll let you chat on one thing, but as I said, like, I think Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, obviously big, star he is being given a lot of power here, right? And I think one of the weird things is Black Adam's known to be a villain of Shazam, but with the post-credit sequence, which, to go along with the announcement in the news, is Henry Cavill coming as Superman, basically. It's also got Viola Davis, who was also in The Woman King, as performing this. I can't remember the name. Performing the same role that she had in the Suicide Squad, both of them. Who's the one who assembles the team, and basically she's like, you know, as Dwayne The Rock Johnson said in all his media, you know, Black Adam's the strongest on earth, but someone's been on the sidelines for way too long. Literally what he said 2 weeks before the film comes out. So it's like, no shit. Everyone knows Henry Cavill's going to fucking be in it now, you dickhead. So you've just spoiled that. And that, I think that's what I said. I think that's just trying to build anticipation for people to go see it. I don't even know if they had trust in their own movie. But they kind of hint towards a Black Adam Superman movie, which like theoretically makes no sense considering he's a villain of Shazam. That's like Superman fighting Joker. Like it's Shazam. Black Adam is the most prominent Shazam villain, which you'd say Joker is.
Yeah.
And they're teasing a Superman Black Adam movie, and Black Adam, like Dwayne The Rock Johnson said, it'll happen. So it's like it just kind of pissed me off.
That's fair. I guess it could
Like
be.
it's not like illogical, but it's just like and like I think the actual director of Shazam, and they're making a second one. Like the trailers come out for the second one. I'm actually quite keen for that. I enjoyed the first. The director of that actually tweeted out like 2 weeks ago, laughing at the tweet, being like, "Oh, I guess Superman's gonna face off Black Adam before Shazam." We were like throwing shade towards DC. And I was like, that's a pretty funny tweet, actually. But sorry to go on a rant, but that's, I guess, two things that were kind of obviously spoilery that kind of just set me off the wrong way and kind of annoyed me. But I'll let you chat about kind of a few aspects if you want, obviously going into more plot and whatever you want to talk about
You make some
spoiler-wise.
good points with, obviously, like the kid. He could pretty much not be in the movie. I thought he was going to have a lot more of an important part or an influence on anything, and he had nothing except Black Adam being like, "Oh, I had a son. That's a son. I guess
I thought he was going to bring
protect him a little."
I thought he was going to bring more of a human aspect and all he does is just give fucking one-liners and quips to use before he kills people. Like, that's his only comedic or use to the film. And the same with the mother. It's like the mother gets the crown, which is obviously a really big part of the film, but the mother's part of that. After that, it's just them chasing the fucking crown.
Yeah, pretty much. There's a whole movie of chasing.
Like they have the crown, the whole movie. They have the crown, and it's just the Justice Society and Black Adam trying to get the crown as well as the bad guys. It's like they're literally just there as a plot device is all it is.
100%.
So they're not there to actually, and like plot devices can sometimes be useful, but it's just like they're there because they're there.
Yeah.
And as I said, same with like Cyclone and Atom Smasher. I think they're really there for comedic value.
Yeah.
Maybe a love romantic story there too, but they're really there for comedic value and add nothing. As I said, the main two parts that I really liked were Hawkman and Dr. Fate.
Yeah, they were fantastic.
Which we won't fucking see Dr. Fate again. I know it's a mantle that passes on, similar to Captain America, but I really liked Pierce Brosnan specifically.
That was,
I thought he was probably the best part about the film. I always love seeing Pierce Brosnan in work. But for anyone who doesn't know, you get fucking slaughtered. If you don't know. And the CGI I was talking about, what's his name? The big villain in the end that
I can't remember.
Sabek?
Yeah, Savik sounds right.
Savik, something essentially, that is some of the worst CGI I've ever seen in a big budget movie.
Not just was the CGI bad, the final fight scene was pretty shocking too. I thought it was going to be some epic kind of fate between two godlike beings, that final fight scene between Adam and Savik.
I actually, like, now that you're talking about it, I actually cannot remember anything.
That's
the only thing the only thing I remember is Dr. Fate doing his sweet ass move from Injustice 2 to get Black Adam out of his little capsule. He did I'm an exterior god kind of thing, but I actually cannot remember the fight. The only thing I remember from the end of the film is him destroying the seat and the post-credit scene. I actually can't remember the fight, and I guess that shows you how memorable the movie is, to be fair.
The fight, I just expected, he goes to the underworld, he gets blessed by the demons, and I'm like, okay, so he's going to have similar powers to Black Adam now, which he kind of comes out and does, and I'm like, okay, so we're going to have two beings that are nearly par on par. We're going to have an epic fight scene where we know Black Adam's going to win over the top because
he's going to win. Yeah.
It's his movie.
He's already talked about how they're making a sequel, so he's not going to die.
Correct. Anyway, and you're thinking that's going to be great. And like, okay, let's have a fight scene for 45 seconds where he tears him in half and then that's game over.
Yeah. I guess that this is kind of where I'm coming at with my comment before saying if this came out like 25 years ago, that it'd probably be the best superhero film, is because obviously you've had Marvel churn out 30 plus films now, but you've had some great DC films along the way. And you've obviously had Spider-Man 1, 2 with the Tobey Maguire. You've had the Dark Knight trilogy, right? You've had these superhero films which have introduced amazing characters and amazing plot. And that's the main thing is the plot's the biggest thing and the characters, right? If the plot's forgettable and like along with that, like you've got memorable villains, like when you really talk about it, like the films I just said, you've got obviously like Batman Begins had Scarecrow, but like, you know, you look at the Dark Knight, you've got the Joker.
Yeah.
You look at Spider-Man 1, you've got Green Goblin. And things like that. You have these memorable things along the way. And that's why I said if it came out before anything, you'd probably think it's fantastic. But nothing separates it from just the most basic superhero film. It's just plot device, massive CGI battle. And it's just, it just happens.
I agree, yeah. I liked the underlying plot. I didn't like any of the story or the overall plot, but I liked the underlying one of, you know, his son was actually the one that was blessed and then he got gifted it and then he's like full raged out and I was like, okay, that's cool. That's kind of relatable. I like that.
I like that, and I like the fact that it was, I liked the main bit I liked about the film, which I actually didn't bring up in the non-spoiler part, but I guess it kind of is a bit spoilery, is the part where it's essentially about like you've got a superhero or an what do they call him? Anti-hero, right? You've got that situation and it's someone standing up for the deprived and the privileged, right? You're in a third world country kind of thing that's taken over by a government that controls its civilians, and you've got someone standing up for that. I like that, but they did nothing with it.
Agreed.
And that's the thing. It's like you could have had some great plot, and it's like, it is weird though, because like DC came out with the Batman, which I think is one of the best superhero films in the last 15, 20 years, which was fantastic and had a great plot and characters, and it was memorable, was made so well. And then you've just got this kind of CGI fest, which does nothing with its plot. Everything's there. And that's the best part about the film is like its underlying plot about obviously like the sun and that situation about like, but they did nothing with that. It's just kind of add for like juxtaposition of towards the end to kind of show that I'm not weird. Like, you know, this is why I hate. And it's like, it kind of just felt undeserved in a sense.
Yeah.
Like it kind of felt that it was just like nothing along the way made me think, oh, you know what? Like that's a deserved point. It's kind of just added there to make like you kind of feel a bit of remorse and empathy for the characters, but it kind of just felt way too late. Yeah, it was literally within the last 10, 15 minutes of the film where they do nothing to build these characters up. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm kind of blasting it in a way. I think it's a very average movie. I think like not that we give ratings, but like it's very much like a, you know, 5 or 6 out of 10 for me. Like there's definitely enjoyable aspects. I could watch it again. Like it's an enjoyable turn your mind off movie. But at the end of the day, I don't really go to films to like, I like to be entertained. I don't like just visually entertained. I like to be like actually thinking the time, which obviously we saw Woman King tonight. And it's like, I was thinking the whole time, my brain was active, and it's like, fair play if you can go and turn your brain off. I know there's certain films where I try to, but at the end of the day, I want something that entertains me on every level, and this kind of entertained me in the fact that I just chuck popcorn in my mouth. There's action, but it's just like, excuse me, it was just very average in every way, really.
Yeah.
There was,
I agree. It had underlying aspects of could have been a phenomenal film, but it didn't deliver on any of it.
And I really hope we don't sit here and have this same conversation with like Black Panther 2, which looks fantastic. Like obviously it's a superhero film. I really hope we don't have this same conversation.
I keep getting the trailers mixed up between Woman King and Wakanda Forever or whatever it is. Just because like certain scenes, like the fights are the same, and then it's also about like women empowerment. And I get those things mixed up. That's a side note anyway.
But yeah, be careful with that one.
Just more the fight scenes, you know, specifically the fight scenes.
I was going to say more. I get more mixed up with Wakanda Forever and Avatar 2 because they both look predominantly underwater.
Yeah, it's got a lot of Aquaman vibes, nearly even. It's got like
Well, Aquaman, Namor is like the MC Aquaman,
yeah,
essentially. But no, I think it's a very average movie. If you wanted to see it, you probably would have seen it.
Yep.
If you wanted to see it, you would have very much enjoyed it. But to be honest, I kind of wanted to see it too because I like superhero films generally half the time. But
go watch it if you want something brainless. Like you don't have to think, you don't have to like study or pay attention. You just want to like a good time. I feel like it delivered on a good time, but it didn't deliver on anything great.
no, it's very much an average movie by all means. But
Yep.
I don't sit here and be like, "Fuck, I wasted money on it." If that makes sense,
No,
like
God, no.
it's not that level, but definitely enjoyable. It's just kind of like certain things annoyed me as a superhero fan, and yeah. Have you got anything else you kind of wanted to?
No, not
to
extra
on
much
with
to
that?
touch on there. Definitely go watch The Woman King. Black Adam watch if you want some brainless moments. But yeah, it's got aspects of a good film. It's worth giving a crack. You won't waste your money.
You won't.
No.
I would agree. Other than that, I guess that's kind of all we have to touch on this week. Next week, I know there's a Chinese film, I think it's called Homecoming, coming out, but we've also got Bros coming out, which is the comedy of sorts. But other than that, that's kind of all we have time for. So thank you for listening. I know it's been probably a bit of a longer pod. We've had the spoiler discussion, a bit of news, and a couple film reviews. But obviously you can listen to us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, visually on YouTube. But other than that, we'll catch you next week.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.